There is no bride.
Alexander, you cannot leave this church unmarried. The Kingston name is at stake.
What about her?
Marry her.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't.
I'll pay every debt you have. I'll guarantee your brother's education.
I'll do it.
So this is the famous Maid. I expected someone prettier.
My parents taught me something before they passed. People reveal their true character by how they treat those they believe are beneath them.
There it is, hidden beneath her pillow. I knew she was hiding something from me. This proves it. She can't deny it now.
You framed my wife. Leave this mansion.
If you want your brother alive, come alone. Bring no police.
Who is this? Please don't hurt him.
You touched my family. She is my wife.
Alexander, I know everything now. The reason I run away is inside this envelope.
I'm not ending the marriage. Emily Carter, will you marry me again? This time for love?
Yes, yes, yes.
The wedding hall glittered with gold chandeliers, fresh white roses, and hundreds of guests dressed in expensive designer outfits. Every camera was focused on the handsome Billionaire standing at the altar. Alexander Kingston was one of the youngest billionaires in the country. At just 32 years old, he owned hotels, real estate companies, and luxury resorts around the world. He was known for his intelligence, his cold personality, and the fact that no one had ever seen him smile. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of his life. But life had another plan. The music stopped. Whispers spread across the hall. The bride was gone. She had disappeared just minutes before walking down the aisle. Guests looked around in confusion while reporters rushed outside hoping to catch the latest scandal. Alexander's face remained expressionless, but inside, his pride was burning. His business rivals were watching. His investors were watching. His family was watching. If this wedding failed, the media would destroy his reputation before sunset. His grandmother slowly walked towards him. "Alexander," she whispered, "you cannot leave this church unmarried. The Kingston family name is at stake." Alexander clenched his jaw. There is no bride. His grandmother looked around the hall until her eyes landed on someone quietly arranging flowers near the entrance. A young maid, simple black uniform, neatly tied hair, no expensive makeup, no expensive jewelry, just honest eyes filled with surprise. "That girl," his grandmother said. Alexander frowned. "What about her?" "Marry her." He looked at his grandmother as if she had gone mad. "She's only a maid." His grandmother smiled. "Exactly. She has nothing to gain from embarrassing this family." The maid heard everything. Her name was Emily Carter. She had worked in the Kingston mansion for 2 years after losing both her parents in a tragic accident. Every penny she earned went toward paying her younger brother's school fees. She quickly shook her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't." Before she could leave, Alexander stood in front of her. "I'll pay every debt you have." Emily looked into his cold eyes. "I don't want your money. I'll guarantee your brother's education." She hesitated. "I'll give you 1 year, a contract marriage. After 1 year, we'll divorce peacefully and you'll receive enough money to start a new life." Emily lowered her head. She wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking about her little brother Noah. Without that money, he would have to leave school. Tears filled her eyes. She slowly nodded. "I'll do it." Gasps echoed throughout the church. Within 30 minutes, the maid became the billionaire's bride. No one applauded. Instead, they whispered, "She's a gold digger. She planned this. She trapped him." Emily heard every insult, but she remained silent because sometimes silence is stronger than revenge. Emily became the center of public ridicule overnight. Social media users mocked her appearance. Fashion bloggers laughed at her simple wedding dress. Television hosts called her the luckiest maid alive. Only one person defended her, Noah. He hugged his sister tightly. "I know you didn't marry him for money." Emily smiled sadly. "Thank you." Meanwhile, Alexander buried himself in work. He rarely spoke to Emily. They lived in the same mansion, but felt like complete strangers. Breakfast, silence. Dinner, silence. Evenings, silence. Emily accepted it. After all, this marriage had never been about love. One afternoon, while cleaning the mansion library, Emily noticed an old woman struggling to carry heavy books. Without thinking, she rushed over. "Please let me help you." The woman smiled warmly. "I've worked here for 30 years and you're the first person to offer me." Emily carried every book back onto the shelves. She even cleaned the dusty corners nobody noticed. The old woman watched carefully. "You remind me of someone." "My mother always taught me to respect people," Emily replied. The woman smiled. So, kindness still exists. Neither of them realized someone else had witnessed the conversation. Alexander. He had come looking for an important document. Instead, he saw his wife helping an employee without expecting praise. For the first time, he looked at Emily differently. Days later, Emily discovered that several kitchen workers were secretly skipping meals because one of their co-workers needed surgery for her sick daughter. Without hesitation, she used part of her own salary to buy groceries for everyone. She never told anyone, but secrets have a way of finding the right ears. The mansion's head chef quietly informed Alexander, "Your wife has been feeding the staff." He frowned. "Using my money?" "No, sir. Her own salary." He said nothing. That night, while Emily watered flowers in the garden, Alexander walked outside. "You shouldn't spend your salary on everyone." Emily looked at the flowers instead of him. "They've always been kind to me." "You barely have enough." "They have even less." Alexander had no reply. He simply walked away. But for the first time in years, someone's words stayed in his mind. Over the following weeks, Emily slowly transformed the mansion, not with expensive decorations, not with luxury furniture, but with warmth. She remembered every employee's birthday. She baked simple cakes. She thanked security guards every morning. She asked gardeners about their families. The mansion no longer felt like a workplace. It felt like a home. Alexander noticed something strange. People smiled more. Employees worked harder. Even his grandmother looked healthier. One evening, his grandmother laughed while drinking tea. "I told you." Alexander looked confused. "Told me what?" "A good heart is worth more than a beautiful face." He remained silent. Deep inside, he was beginning to agree. Unfortunately, not everyone welcomed Emily. Alexander's cousin Victoria believed she deserved to marry into the Kingston family. She hated seeing a maid become the lady of the mansion. "This marriage won't last," she sneered. One afternoon, Victoria invited several wealthy socialites for lunch. Emily greeted each guest politely. Instead of greeting her back, they laughed. "So, this is the famous maid. I expected someone prettier. I wonder how much she charged." Emily continued serving tea without responding. Victoria smiled cruelly. "Oh dear, did we hurt your feelings?" Emily placed the teapot down carefully. "My parents taught me something before they passed away. Victoria folded her arms. And what is that? Emily smiled gently. They said people reveal their true character by how they treat those they believe are beneath them. The dining room became silent. Several guests lowered their eyes. Victoria's face turned red with anger. From upstairs, Alexander had heard every word. For the first time, he felt proud of his wife. That evening, Victoria secretly bribed a servant to hide an expensive diamond necklace inside Emily's room. The next morning, the mansion erupted in chaos. The necklace is missing! Every servant was searched. Finally, Victoria walked into Emily's bedroom. There it is! She pulled the necklace from beneath Emily's pillow. Gasps filled the room. Emily stared in disbelief. I've never seen that necklace before. Victoria smiled triumphantly. Of course you will deny it. Even Alexander looked uncertain. Emily felt her heart breaking. Not because people doubted her, but because the man she had sacrificed everything for couldn't immediately believe her. Just then, an elderly security guard stepped forward. Sir, I need to show you something. He handed Alexander a small flash drive. It contains yesterday's security footage. Alexander inserted it into the television. Everyone watched in silence. The video clearly showed Victoria paying a servant to enter Emily's room late at night. The entire room fell silent, and Victoria's confident smile disappeared instantly. Alexander slowly turned to Victoria. You framed my wife. Victoria forced a nervous laugh. There must be a mistake. Alexander replayed the footage. Again and again. There was no mistake. His voice became colder than ice. Leave this mansion. Victoria's eyes widened. What? You heard me. Aunt Margaret will never allow this. Alexander looked directly into her eyes. I own this house. Victoria tried to defend herself, but no one listened anymore. The servant she had bribed finally confessed everything. She was escorted out of the mansion in complete disgrace. Silence filled the living room. Alexander looked at Emily. I'm sorry. She simply nodded. You don't have to apologize. I doubted you. I understand why. No, you don't. For the first time in many years, Alexander felt ashamed of himself. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept remembering Emily's calm face. She had every reason to scream, cry, or demand justice. Instead, she forgave him. That troubled him more than anger ever could. The next morning, he did something that surprised everyone. He waited for Emily in the dining room. When she entered, breakfast was already served. You waited for me? She asked. Alexander nodded. Sit. It was the first meal they had ever shared without silence. He asked about her childhood. She spoke softly about growing up in a small village. Her father was a school teacher. Her mother sold homemade bread every morning. They never had much money, but their home was always full of laughter. What happened? Alexander asked quietly. Emily looked down. They died in a road accident 3 years ago. I'm sorry. She smiled sadly. So am I. Alexander realized she carried pain without letting it turn into bitterness. That was something money could never buy. Days later, Alexander invited Emily to attend a charity gala with him. She hesitated. I don't belong there. You belong wherever my wife belongs. It was the first time he had called her his wife with sincerity. Emily's cheeks turned slightly pink. On the night of the gala, famous politicians, celebrities, and wealthy business owners filled the grand ballroom. Every camera flashed the moment Alexander and Emily entered together. Whispers followed immediately. That's the maid. She actually looks elegant. I heard she's after his fortune. Emily ignored every comment. She walked beside Alexander with quiet confidence. During dinner, an elderly businessman suddenly collapsed. People panicked. Some stepped back. Emily rushed forward. "My mother was a nurse," she said. She checked his breathing and quickly instructed someone to call an ambulance. She loosened his tie and kept him calm until medical workers arrived. Later, the doctors confirmed that Emily's quick actions had saved the man's life. The businessman was Richard Lawson, one of the country's most respected investors. When he recovered, he held Emily's hand. "You saved me. I'm just glad you're alive. You owe me. You owe me nothing." Richard smiled. "People like you are rare."
Alexander watched the conversation from across the room. Pride filled his heart. For once, the headlines the next morning were different. The billionaire's wife saves business tycoon's life. Public opinion slowly began to change. People who had mocked Emily started praising her kindness. But not everyone was happy. Far away in another city, a woman stared at the newspaper with burning anger. Sophia, Alexander's former bride, the woman who had run away on their wedding day. She slammed the newspaper onto her desk. "He's happy without me?" Her assistant remained silent. Sophia smiled bitterly. "No, I won't allow that." A week later, she walked confidently into Kingston Global headquarters. Employees froze. Alexander looked up from his desk. "What are you doing here?" Sophia closed the door behind her. "I made a mistake. You disappeared. I was scared. You humiliated me. I still love you." Alexander stood. "Leave." She stepped closer. "That maid means nothing to you." Alexander's expression hardened. "Her name is Emily." Sophia laughed softly. "You married her out of pity?" "No." "Out of obligation?" "No." "Then why?" Alexander paused. For the first time, he couldn't answer. Sophia noticed his silence and smiled. "I'll give you time." She walked away, convinced she still had a chance. Unfortunately, Emily had arrived with lunch at exactly the wrong moment. She had heard enough to misunderstand everything. She quietly left before Alexander saw her. That evening, Emily avoided him completely. When Alexander returned home, he found divorce papers neatly placed on his desk. His heart skipped. He rushed to find her. Emily stood alone in the garden, staring at the moon. "You want a divorce?" he asked. She smiled gently. "That was always our agreement." "It's different now." "Is it?" "I don't love Sophia." Emily looked at him. "You don't have to explain for my sake." "I'm not lying." "Then why didn't you tell her to stay away forever?" Alexander opened his mouth, but no words came out. Because he had never admitted the truth, not even to himself. Sophia lowered her eyes. "I'll leave after the contract ends." She walked back into the house before he could stop her. For the first time, Alexander realized something terrifying. The thought of losing Emily hurt far more than the embarrassment of losing Sophia ever had. He sat alone in his study that night. His grandmother quietly entered. "You love her?" Alexander didn't answer. "You've loved her longer than you realize." He stared at the family portrait hanging on the wall. "When did it happen?" His grandmother smiled. "The day you started looking for her every morning." Alexander finally understood. He wasn't protecting Emily because she was his wife. He was protecting her because she had become the most important person in his life. The next morning, he made a decision. He cancelled every business meeting, every appointment, every flight. His assistant stared in shock. "Sir, You have meetings worth hundreds of millions of naira. Alexander smiled. They can wait. For what? I'm going to win my wife's heart. But neither of them knew someone was already planning to destroy everything they had built together. The person determined to destroy Emily was not Sophia. It was someone far more dangerous. Richard Lawson's eldest son, Daniel. Unlike his honorable father, Daniel cared about only one thing: power. When Richard announced that he intended to appoint someone trustworthy to help manage his charitable foundation, Daniel became furious. Then he heard his father praise Emily. That young woman has more integrity than many wealthy people I know. Daniel slammed his fist onto the table. She's just a maid. Richard calmly replied, no, she is a woman of character. Jealousy quickly turned into hatred. If I can't control my father's decisions, Daniel muttered, I'll remove the woman influencing them. Meanwhile, Alexander was carrying out his plan to win Emily's heart. Instead of expensive gifts, he started with small things. He remembered how she loved fresh flowers. Every morning, a bouquet appeared outside her bedroom door. No name, no card, only beautiful wildflowers. Emily smiled every time she saw them. She secretly wondered who was leaving them there. One afternoon, she visited Noah at his university. She was surprised to discover that all his tuition fees had already been paid for the next 4 years. Who paid them? She asked. The school's accountant smiled. An anonymous sponsor. Emily already knew who it was. When she returned home, she found Alexander reading in the library. You paid Noah's fees. He closed his book. Yes. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Emily's eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you. Alexander smiled. It was only a small smile, but it was the first genuine smile Emily had ever seen on his face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Neither wanted the moment to end. Days later, Alexander surprised Emily again. I have somewhere I'd like to take you. They drove for nearly 2 hours before stopping at a quiet hill overlooking a peaceful lake. The place was breathtaking. Wildflowers covered the fields, children laughed nearby, the evening sun painted the sky with shades of gold and orange. My parents used to bring me here, Alexander admitted. Emily looked at him in surprise. You've never told anyone that. I know. He took a deep breath. My father wasn't always rich. Emily listened carefully. We struggled when I was young. He smiled faintly. My mother used to pack sandwiches and we'd spend the entire afternoon here. What happened to them? They both passed away before I built my first company. Emily gently placed her hand over his. I'm sorry. Alexander looked at her. For the first time in years, someone understood his loneliness. Without thinking, he held her hand. Neither of them pulled away. Back at the mansion, things slowly began to change. Breakfast conversations became longer. Dinner was filled with laughter. Employees smiled whenever they saw the couple together. Even Alexander's grandmother whispered happily to herself, they're finally becoming a real family. But happiness often attracts envy. Daniel Lawson had already begun his plan. He hired a private investigator to dig into Emily's past. After weeks of searching, the investigator found something shocking. Emily's younger brother Noah had unknowingly borrowed money from illegal lenders before receiving his scholarship. The debt had grown enormously. Daniel smiled. Perfect. A few days later, Noah was kidnapped while walking home from class. Emily received a phone call that evening. If you want your brother alive, come alone. Her heart nearly stopped. Please don't hurt him. Bring no police. The call ended. Emily immediately left the mansion without telling anyone. She only left a short note. I have something important to do. When Alexander returned home and discovered the note, he sensed something was terribly wrong. Emily had never disappeared without explaining herself. He checked the security cameras. He saw her leaving in tears. Then his phone rang. It was Noah's school. Mr. Kingston, Noah never arrived for his evening classes. Alexander's blood ran cold. He immediately ordered his security team to track Emily's phone. Meanwhile, Emily arrived at an abandoned warehouse outside the city. She walked inside alone. Noah sat tied to a chair. His face was bruised. "Emily!" She ran toward him. Before she could reach him, several armed men surrounded her. Daniel slowly stepped out of the shadows. "You came." Emily stared at him. "What do you want?" He smiled. "Simple." He placed several documents on a table. "Sign these." She looked at them. They transferred control of Richard Lawson's charitable foundation to Daniel through false accusations against his father. "I can't." "You can." "No." Daniel nodded toward Noah. One of the men pointed a gun at Noah. Emily burst into tears. "Please, sign." Her hands trembled. Just as she reached for the pen, the warehouse doors exploded open. Alexander's security team stormed inside. Nobody moved. Chaos erupted instantly. The kidnappers tried to escape. Alexander ran straight toward Emily. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Noah!" Alexander rushed to untie Noah while his guards overpowered the kidnappers. Daniel attempted to flee through the back entrance. He almost made it. Almost. Alexander caught him before he reached his car. One powerful punch sent Daniel crashing onto the ground. "You touched my family." Daniel laughed despite the blood on his lip. "She's only your contract wife." Alexander grabbed him by the collar. "No." His voice thundered across the empty warehouse. "She is my wife, and if anyone ever hurt her again," his eyes burned with fury, "I'll make sure they answer to the law." Police sirens echoed in the distance. Daniel and his men were arrested. Noah was finally safe. As the ambulance checked Noah's injuries, Emily could no longer hold back her emotions. She threw her arms around Alexander and cried harder than she had ever had before. "I'm so sorry." Alexander wrapped his arms around her. "You never have to face danger alone again." She looked up. Their eyes met. For a long moment, the world around them disappeared. Slowly, Alexander leaned closer. Emily closed her eyes. Just as their lips were about to meet, a voice interrupted them. "Alexander!" Sophia stood a few feet away, tears running down her face. "I know everything now." Everyone turned to look at her. She held an old envelope in her shaking hands. "The reason I ran away on our wedding day wasn't because I stopped loving you." Alexander frowned. "Then why?" Sophia swallowed hard. "The answer is inside this envelope." The truth she was about to reveal would change everything they believed about the past. Alexander stared at the envelope in Sophia's trembling hands. "What is this?" She slowly handed it to him. "It was written by my father." Alexander opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten confession. Years ago, Sophia's father had secretly borrowed millions of dollars from dangerous loan sharks after several failed business investments. When he couldn't repay the money, the criminals threatened to kill his entire family. On Alexander and Sophia's wedding day, the gang contacted Sophia. She had only one choice: leave Alexander at the altar or watch him become their next target. "I thought leaving you would save your life," Sophia whispered through tears. "I knew you would hate me, but I couldn't bear the thought of you dying because of me." Alexander lowered the letter. For the first time, he understood. She had not run away because she stopped loving him. She had sacrificed her happiness. Emily stood quietly nearby. She could see the pain in both of their eyes. Sophia wiped away her tears. "But I made another mistake." Alexander looked at her. "When I came back, I thought I could continue where we stopped." She smiled sadly. "But I was wrong." She turned toward Emily. "I've watched the way he looks at you." Emily remained silent. Sophia continued. He never looked at me like that. She walked closer and gently took Emily's hands. Please, take care of him. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Sophia smiled one last time. I finally understand that true love isn't about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go. Without waiting for another word, she quietly walked away. No one stopped her. Some endings deserve peace. A few weeks later, Daniel Lawson pleaded guilty to kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy. Richard Lawson publicly apologized to Emily. My son brought shame upon our family. Emily smiled kindly. The important thing is that justice was served. Richard nodded. I still owe you my life. He announced a donation of $50 million to build schools and hospitals in memory of Emily's parents. When reporters asked why, his answer made headlines across the country. Because one woman's kindness reminded me that wealth means nothing without compassion. Emily cried when she heard the news. Her parents' names would never be forgotten. Life at Kingston Mansion changed completely. Alexander was no longer the cold billionaire everyone feared. Employees often caught him smiling. He joined the gardeners on weekends. He ate lunch with the staff. Sometimes he even helped in the kitchen, although everyone laughed at his terrible cooking. The mansion was filled with laughter again. One evening, Alexander invited Noah to his office. I have something for you. Noah opened the folder. It contained a scholarship to study engineering abroad after graduation. I can't accept this. Alexander smiled. Your family. Noah's eyes became wet. You've done so much. Alexander shook his head. No. You gave me something far more valuable. What? You gave me your sister. Months passed. The 1-year contract slowly came to an end. Emily sat alone in the garden holding the original agreement. She read the final sentence. This marriage shall automatically end after 1 year unless both parties agree otherwise. A tear rolled down her cheek. She loved Alexander with all her heart, but she had promised herself she would never force him to stay. She quietly signed the divorce papers. Just then, Alexander appeared behind her. You signed them? Emily nodded. It was our agreement. Alexander took the papers from her hands. Then, he slowly tore them into tiny pieces. The paper fluttered through the air like falling snow. Emily stared in disbelief. What are you doing? Alexander stepped closer. I'm ending the contract. But I'm not ending the marriage. Emily's heart raced. I don't understand. Alexander reached into his pocket. This time, he wasn't holding a contract. He was holding a small velvet box. He knelt before her. The mighty billionaire, the man feared by competitors across the world, knelt before the woman who had once cleaned his mansion. His voice trembled. The first time I married you, it was because I needed someone to save my family's reputation. He opened the box. Inside sparkled a beautiful diamond ring. But today, his eyes filled with emotion. I want to marry you because you saved my heart. You taught me that kindness is stronger than pride. You taught me that forgiveness is stronger than revenge. You taught me that love isn't bought with money. He took a deep breath. Emily Carter, will you marry me again? This time for love? Emily couldn't speak. She simply nodded over and over again. Yes, yes, yes. Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a warm embrace. For the first time since they met, they kissed. Not because of a contract, not because of family pressure, but because two lonely hearts had finally found each other. The mansion erupted into cheers. The employees clapped. Noah laughed through his tears. Alexander's grandmother smiled proudly. I knew it from the very beginning. 6 months later, the mansion hosted another marriage. This time, there were no whispers, no gossip, no scandal. Only genuine happiness. Emily walked down the aisle wearing a simple but elegant white gown. Alexander couldn't take his eyes off her. When she reached him, he whispered, "You are the greatest blessing that ever entered my life." Emily smiled. "And you are proof that even a broken heart can learn to love again." They exchanged vows before family, friends, and their employees who had become part of their lives. As they were pronounced husband and wife, the entire hall rose to its feet in applause. Outside, children released white doves into the bright blue sky. It was a symbol of new beginnings. 3 years later, the Kingston Foundation had built schools, libraries, and free medical clinics across rural communities. Emily personally visited every project,
making sure every child had books, every classroom had teachers, and every patient received proper care. Alexander stood beside her every step of the way. Their success was no longer measured by billions in the bank. It was measured by the lives they changed. One quiet afternoon, Emily sat beneath a tree watching 2 little children chase butterflies across the garden. A little boy with Alexander's smile, a little girl with Emily's kind eyes. Alexander wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Do you ever regret saying yes that day in the church?" Emily laughed softly. "Never." "What if the bride had never run away?" Emily looked at him lovingly. "Then destiny would have found another way." Alexander kissed her forehead. "I believe you are right." They watched the children play as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the hills. Sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with perfect plans. Sometimes they begin with heartbreak, a difficult choice, and the courage to trust a stranger. Because true love isn't found in wealth, beauty, or power. It is found in kindness, loyalty, forgiveness, and the willingness to stand beside someone when life becomes difficult. And in the end, the billionaire never found the perfect bride. He found something far more precious, a woman with a beautiful heart. The end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another unforgettable story. Tell us in the comments, do you believe true love can begin from a simple act of kindness? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching, and may kindness always lead your heart. God bless.